Hey guys, and welcome back to another Woodbrew video.
In this week's video, we're taking a really outdated bedroom and sort of renovating it from the floor all the way up to the ceiling. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get started.
As you can see here, this room is really outdated. The dark colored walls make the room feel smaller than it actually is. The carpet is dark as well and losing its shape. And the trim is the small generic trim that comes with most houses. We are going to do our very best to brighten this room up. We started out by taking all the outlet covers off and ripping out the old trim. A good little trick is to use a utility knife to cut the old caulk to separate the trim from the wall. It will help not to do too much damage to the sheetrock when pulling out the trim. For paint application, we are using HomeRite's Easy Twist paint stick. This is amazing. You put the fill tube inside the paint can, connect the stick to the fill tube, flip a switch on the handle, and pull the end out. Then the tube fills with paint and you are ready to get to work. No drips and no mess. When you need more paint, you twist the end of the stick back in to push more paint out of the roller. This saves you a ton of time and effort from going back and forth to the paint tray. Thank you HomeRite for sponsoring this video. All of their products we use in this video will be linked down below. We spoke with a lady in the paint department at Home Depot and she recommended for us to use a gray primer instead of white since we are covering up such dark red walls. She said gray primer covers red easier than white primer and gray primer to white paint is an easy transition. Boy, was she right. For the corners, I used HomeRite's Quick Painter Pad Edge Painter. You can also fill this up with paint and release the paint however often you need it. Not to mention how smooth of a finish the pad leaves. After all the walls were primed, I came back to cut in all the upper edges up to the ceiling. We ended up doing 2 coats of primer and cut in twice around the ceiling. We noticed that the ceiling paint job was pretty spotty and a little yellow, so while all the paint supplies were out, we went ahead and painted the ceiling as well. Using a roller cover helped out a ton not to splatter wet paint down on my face and clothes. Highly recommend that if you have to paint a ceiling. Also recommend an Advil because your neck will be hurting the next day. Dylan started the first coat of white paint that night and I finished all the walls the next day. Now we can finally rip up the old dingy carpet and padding. The easiest way to do this is cut it up in sections so it's easier to manage and carry out. Before adding carpet back in, we did all the trim work. We pre-rolled on our trim color paint to all the primed trim before starting to run the trim. This will let us only have to touch up the nail holes later. We went with 1x4 prime boards for the door casing and 1x6 prime boards with a piece of bullnose trim attached to the bottom for the upper casing around the door. Having bigger trim makes the room or home feel just a little bit more expensive than having the smaller trim. While Dylan did all the trim, I was coming right in behind him with spackling to fill all the nail holes. We also did 1x4 prime boards for the baseboards. We made sure to set the trim off the floor a ½ inch to allow for the carpet to be tucked under. After trim was all in, we came back around and caulked all the edges for a nice seamless finish. We didn't feel comfortable enough to install carpet ourselves, Plus, it was cheaper for someone to come out and install it instead of us buying the necessary tools for a good job. After it was installed, we wasted no time getting furniture together and put in place. We reinstalled the same blinds as before because they were in pretty good shape. We did, however, add new curtains. Another little trick to make the room feel bigger is either get curtains that go all the way down to the floor or attach the curtain rod to the wall a little above the window. For best results, do both. We didn't raise the rod here because the ceiling is already pretty low, so it would look a little goofy if the curtain started at the ceiling. We found these really cute watercolor leaves already framed and in a set of 3 to go right above the bed. We used the Bosch laser level lined up in the center of the room so we know where the middle of the middle frame needs to go and also keep all the frames level with each other. Last thing we did was update the ceiling fan and we were all done. We went for a more minimal style in the decor of this room and we love how it turned out. The white walls really make the room feel so much bigger and brighter. Thanks again to HomeRite for sponsoring this week's video. We hope you guys enjoyed and we will see you in the next one.